you know, getting older, regardless of what people think, especially when they're much, much younger, have virtues. Some of those virtues come along with just this ability of having memory as opposed to having to look up an event. Memory brings along with it experiential context. You get a feeling for what was going on at the time frame, and that in and of itself is additional information that goes beyond anything that you can look into a book and absorb. Do you remember this moment? This is Obama versus Clinton arguing against the individual mandate. You may scratch your head on that if you weren't aware of this, or was it around during the time where Obama was running, or wasn't paying attention during the time Obama was running. I was paying attention to the time that Obama was running, and Hillary Clinton was pushing for an individual mandate. They were basically going for something similar in regards to healthcare. Obama found the nano space or the nanometer of differential, saying, I am against the individual mandate. Before you jump ahead of me, you know that Obama pushed through the individual mandate and Affordable Care Act. Listen to the clip. Let's hear the video.
Expert has said that anybody who wants health care under my plan will be able to obtain it. President Clinton's own Secretary of Labor has said that my plan does more to reduce costs and as a consequence make sure that the people who need health care right now all across Ohio, all across Texas, Rhode Island, Vermont, all across America will be able to obtain it. And we do more to reduce costs than any other plan that's been out there. Now, I have no objection to Senator Clinton thinking that her approach is superior, but the fact of the matter is that if, as we've heard tonight, we still don't know how Senator Clinton intends to enforce a mandate, and if we don't know the level of subsidies that she's going to provide, then you can have a situation, which we're seeing right now in the state of Massachusetts, where people are being fined for not having purchased health care, but choose to accept the fine because they still can't afford it even with the subsidies. And they are then worse off. They then have no health care and are paying a fine above and beyond that. That is a genuine difference between myself and Senator Clinton. And the last point I would make is the insurance companies actually are happy to have a mandate. The insurance companies don't mind making sure that everybody has to purchase their product. That's not something they're objecting to. The question is, are we going to make sure that it is affordable for everybody? And that's my goal when I'm president of the United States.
Now, let's hear the rest.
We don't want to put in a situation in which on the front end we are mandating them, we are forcing them to purchase insurance, and if the subsidies are inadequate, the burden is on them and they will be penalized. And that is what Senator Clinton's plan does.
Now, again, you may be shocked to hear this if this is the first time you've heard about somebody mentioning this, or if you weren't around during this time. But yes, Obama was attacking Hillary Clinton for proposing and pushing for the individual mandate, then turned around and implemented the individual mandate in the Affordable Care Act. Why am I showing you this? I'm showing you this because basically the Trump administration in the dead of the night, went through and pushed through a brief attacking and trying to invalidate the entirety of the Affordable Care Act based on the premise that Congress in 2017 got rid of the penalties associated with the individual mandate. Basically, the individual mandate is intrinsically linked to the entirety of the Affordable Care Act and cannot be individuated, meaning you can't sever this aspect of it and keep Obamacare. And because those things can't be severed, because those things are intrinsically linked to one another, the very fact that the mandate was basically done away with, meaning the individual mandate is still there, but the fines associated with the mandate have been removed by Congress. Well, they're arguing that it makes the entire thing invalid, makes it unconstitutional and basically unworkable, because the law basically would have never been passed if that provision was not a part of it. Now, whether or not this is a long shot or not, over 20 million people will lose their health care in the middle of a pandemic without any real legitimate way of even speaking to this issue. There hasn't been a whisper of a solution because Republicans don't believe in a solution. This affects, by the way, even the individual, pre-existing conditions. meaning even those people with pre-existing conditions will be nullified under this, allowing insurance companies to once again discriminate against people who have health conditions coming into a system or coming into a plan. Donald Trump originally said he wasn't going to do this, but Donald Trump is a Republican. And I would make the case this is something you should have, to some degree, expected. Here's the thing. Is this a rational act? Yay or nay? And we're going to answer that on the other end of the soapbox. Welcome to the soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. I hate to point this out, but if Obama chose Medicare for all or a public option, none of this would be happening. Both of those plans are perfectly legal. Instead, Obama went with, a 3,000-page bill with all of these gears and levers and stupid human tricks that try to basically make this thing work. And so the Republicans took the plan of, we're going to tackle it plank by plank. Where's the intersection that we can break it off? Here's one, crack. And they went in and they got rid of the penalty. They were basically taking planks out of it. Now they're going for the long shot of trying to get rid of it whole hog, using what Obama at one point said he would never implement. In the brief, the U.S. Solicitor General Noah Francisco and other Justice Department officials sided with Texas in the case led by Republican Attorney General, arguing that the requirement for the people to buy insurance is no longer valid after Congress scrapped the penalty for non-compliance in 2017. The Justice Department added the individual mandate is not severable from the rest of the Affordable Care Act. The brief includes a section pointedly arguing that the Affordable Care Act's pre-existing condition rules must be overturned as well. Those rules forbid insurers from turning away customers or charging them more money or more on the basis of factors like age, gender, and health status. Trump, again, initially, was against this. And yet, here we are, with him arguing to get rid of that also. Middle of a pandemic. There is no moral justification for this at all. But again, this is not a moral nation. I would even go so far as to say it's not even a rational nation, at least in regards to the public, trying to affect their will through a political apparatus through consistent and determined intention. That doesn't necessarily happen. The President of the United States is pushing people to go back to work. At the time, with 123,000 people have died from a virus that we knew was taking place 3 months in advance of the time it hit this country, with 30 million people already without health care. And Trump believes that the best course of action in this very specific moment, with 40 million, 30 million people out of a job, with roughly as many without health care, and with an apocalypse of epic proportions coming in July, with all of these people either losing their homes or, meaning being evicted and thrown onto the streets, or going bust by not having any money because of the federal government basically dropping that provision. It's at this moment that the Trump administration has decided we need to get rid of Obamacare. Now, he may be doing this because he thinks, for political optics effect, he wants people to see that he's working on this issue. Because this was one of his campaign promises, right? I'm going to get rid of Obamacare. I'm going to get rid of Obamacare. This is something that his base may actually love. The problem here is that the public blames Trump for the virus. The public blames Trump for the 120,000 people dead and the over 2.2 million people infected by it. And seeing that the numbers have started to spike prodigiously so in various states, where Texas is closing down their bars again. Meaning many of these states may actually try to shut back down again in order to stem the tide of the virus that has been resurging back in epic proportion. And understand, deaths will follow the number of people who are being infected by that virus. Donald Trump may think this is a campaign pledge. He may think that this is a great time to give him some political gravitas, saying I was Donald Trump and I was fighting against the Affordable Care Act, and I told you I was going to get rid of Obamacare, and this is me taking the steps to do it. He may believe that that is okay, and that may be okay for a percentage of his base. But talk about tone fucking deaf at the time frame to which you are implementing this. If nothing else had taken place, if there was no virus and you did this, the public still would be against you. But you're doing this in the middle of a pandemic. Because why? You're so comically out of sorts and unempathetic that you can't necessarily deal with the fact that all of these people, many of which are your supporters, will lose their health care in the middle of a pandemic. Will that help or hurt your situation as a country? And even if you think you can get political kicks out of that, is it a rational act to do that as a president? It is not. And whatever he thinks he's going to get out of this for the political gravitas of getting people to think that, yeah, this is a great idea, I think he's going to find that in the same way people considered his handling of the COVID-19 virus to be hideous, abominable, and downright deplorable, I think they're going to find this to be equally as disgusting. I could be wrong. But in the same way they consider his handling of either the racial issue or, for that matter, the medical issue, taking this action is not rational. And taking this action is going to piss off the public who requires that healthcare. 20 million people, not to mention the pre-existing conditions item. They're calling this somewhat of a long shot because 5 of the justices are still there. Nevertheless, just because 5 of them were still there, Scalia was going to strike down the Affordable Care Act. They tried to. Look back over at what was taking place around the time of the Affordable Care Act basically given a pass by the Supreme Court. Scalia was in talks trying to get Roberts to change his mind because at one point they had struck down the Affordable Care Act. So the fact that Scalia is no longer there, Roberts is there, but one of the other people, they may change their minds. Maybe they decide this is what we can get out of this right now, that we're not going to get the opportunity to do it later. The Republicans did not want the Affordable Care Act to exist. And you have a Supreme Court that may take the activist route of eliminating it. So who knows? They say it's a long shot, but understand whether it's a long shot or not, there are 20 million people that hang in the balance, not to mention how many other people have a pre-existing condition. And that is at the time with 20 million people already out of health insurance because of the job loss. And yeah, all of those people out of jobs. I hate to tell you this, but passing this, once that healthcare is lost, the pandemic, if it's during the pandemic, will get that much worse because those people won't go to a doctor when they need to. Those people would not want the bill. Those people would not have health insurance. There's no provision to attend to this going forward if the Obamacare is struck down. President Trump, I think, is going to pay for this personally. Whether it's struck down or not, there will be a political penalty for this, especially if this story gets widespread attention where the public is seeing exactly what Donald Trump is trying to do in that office in the middle of a pandemic. Like, share, and of course, subscribe. Thanks all.